Players across the NFL voicing their opinions in silent protest during the national anthem. The protests are intended to highlight racial inequality and police brutality. Seattle player Colin Kaepernick started it by taking a knee during a preseason game, but more players are joining in. Texans player Deandre Hopkins weighing in, saying people who disagree with the protests shouldn't speak on something they don't understand. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has voiced support for players who want to protest, but some say he's risking upsetting millions of football fans. So does the NFL have a real crisis on its hands? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Just send me a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. Joining us live in the newsroom, our panel led by our senior legal analyst Chris Tritico, Democratic media consultant Mustafa Tamiz, and Republican strategist and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
All right, so where do you guys stand on this?
Well, you know, while we're talking about football, we have to start out with, of course, the best university in Texas.
Cougs
Won its game last night against Lamar. Sam Houston State University, 2-0. There's your in-depth sports report. Nate Griffin. All right, listen, this is a First Amendment issue primarily, free speech issue. The NFL is doing everything it can to tamp it down. They cannot stop a player from not standing, and so they're doing everything they can to keep it from becoming a controversy because they can't force a player to stand. The U.S. Supreme Court weighed in on this in the 60s or 70s with respect to public schools, and they just can't do anything about it, Jackie Bally. And we've talked about this before. We have to respect their right to protest.
It's their right.
We may not agree with it, but we have to respect their right to do it.
It's his right to protest, and yes, we've discussed this. I do not agree with it at all. I wish they would use their platform for something better. We've seen in the NFL that they have a lot of trouble players from beating up their wives, beating up their girlfriends, and very little repercussions have happened. His T-shirt is now the #1 selling T-shirt of all NFL shirts. So again, we're rewarding very bad behavior. This gentleman was not even known. He was seen as a B-rated football player, and now all of a sudden we're talking about him twice within the last 2 months. His T-shirt is the #1 NFL selling shirt. Again, rewarding bad behavior because he's now saying he's not going to kneel, respect our flag and respect our anthem.
More and more players are joining in. Other sports are joining in, and Deandre Hopkins, I don't know that Deandre Hopkins is joining in on it, but he spoke out this week saying if you've never dealt with this, why don't you not speak out against it? That paraphrasing.
And look, it's a much bigger issue than most people realize. And so when players are speaking out on it in a way and they're getting so much support, there's something that people should pay attention to. But outside of that, from an NFL perspective, you know, the concussion is a much bigger crisis for the NFL to solve because that's something that they can solve. This is something that happens before a game and then let's go play football. So it's creating a national conversation, and it's a good conversation to have, and we should respect people on both sides.
What about that, Jackie? It is a good conversation to have, and why do we have to get angry because he started a conversation that we really need to have?
Well, I think the biggest conversation we are not having, this is why I feel this is being overplayed, is because Chicago had one of the deadliest months in history last month. We're not hearing any of these football players talk about it. Black people represent 13% of the population, but yet we commit 52% of the homicides. We need to look within our own communities. Why don't these football players go into the inner cities, help their youths, find out why black men are killing other black men? That is happening at a much larger and faster rate than white cops killing black men.
Let me ask you both about this. U.S. Army veteran Richard Allen Smith posted a letter joined by a diverse group of veterans. And this is a quote out of the letter. There are veterans who not only agree with Colin Kaepernick's right to do what he did, but also agree with the substance of the action, Smith said, and are willing to stand up and say Black Lives Matter, and this is an important issue that we need to address in our country.
Yeah, look.
That was an open letter that was posted.
Men and women put on this uniform and put their life on the line, give up their life to defend the Constitution. And many of us look at that as a talking point and see it as a political argument. If you believe in something, then you believe in it for everybody, not just when it suits you. And so when someone stands up and says, I care about this issue, and for that I'm willing to give up my livelihood, which is what Muhammad Ali did during the Vietnam War, which is what two of the athletes did during the 1969 Olympics. You have to respect it. And
yeah, but Kaepernick is not Muhammad Ali. He was known prior to this for getting in trouble with the NFL for doing very dubious things and things that were nefarious before the attention he is now getting. Again, it is his right and every other football player's right to do what they're doing. But let's look at the real issue, guys. Let's go into our inner cities and find out why black people are killing black people. There's a real problem here.
Let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, thanks, guys. We're going to head over to Twitter right now and get a tweet from Dave first. He says, free speech, but disrespectful, in my opinion. Hashtag God bless America. And then Take It From Tia says, we keep talking about what he's doing, but let's talk about why he's doing it. She says, you know, people are missing the whole point. Real quick, I know we're about out of time, but Roger Goodell obviously walking a fine line. Are we going to hear him say anything?
I think Roger Goodell said about all he wants to say about this, because Roger Goodell doesn't want to be the focal point of this.
Well, I think we're saying NFL, NFL, NFL. This is starting to spread to a number of different sports, and it's also going to collegiate sports. So this is not just happening in one place. And so just to say to Kaepernick that this is he who is doing this and it's the only one, that's not true.
10 seconds.
I say watch baseball. Baseball players aren't going to do it. Well, that's why I'm a baseball girl.
I disagree with the fact that the statement that you should boycott football because players are making a First Amendment stance.
I say watch baseball.
That's what makes this country great. We're going to leave it right there. We'll be back in about 20 minutes with another really good topic.
Good discussion. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.